I used to believe that if someone loved you, they would just know when you were hurting. They would feel it. They would sense the shift in your voice, the heaviness in your steps, the silence in your sighs. That was my first mistake. Daniel was my boyfriend for 5 years. He was gentle, patient, the kind of man who stood behind you quietly, steady like a pillar, not loud or dramatic. The kind of love that didn't need to be said in grand speeches because it showed itself in everyday things: charging my phone before bed, cooking dinner when I was exhausted, warming my side of the couch when waiting for me to get home. But I didn't want gentle. Not then. I wanted someone to chase me. I wanted passion, or I told myself that's what it was. The truth is, I wanted to be validated. When I started pulling away emotionally, I expected him to ask what was wrong, to sit me down and demand to know why I was distant, why I stopped reaching for his hand, why I had started sleeping turned away from him. I wanted him to beg me to stay close. I wanted to feel chosen. But he didn't. He gave me space. Because Daniel wasn't the type to push. He thought love meant trusting your partner enough to let them breathe. And I interpreted that as neglect. Around that time, my boss, Adrian, started noticing things. The tiredness in my face. The way my smile didn't reach my eyes. He asked questions Daniel never asked, but only because I never allowed Daniel to get close enough to ask them. I had already started building that wall before the affair ever began. One late evening, while everyone else had already gone home, I sat at my desk staring at my screen, but not really seeing it. My mind was foggy, heavy, knotted. Adrian stood in the doorway of my office and said, softly, "You don't seem okay." Just that. Not dramatic. Not romantic. Just someone noticing. And I broke. "I'm fine," I whispered first, the automatic lie. But he didn't accept it. He stepped closer, leaned against the desk beside me, and waited. No one ever waited for me to speak. I think that's where I fell. I told him things I never told Daniel, not because Daniel was unworthy, but because I wanted Adrian to feel special. I created this intimacy. I fed it. I watered it. I let it grow until it felt inevitable. When Adrian touched my hand, I didn't pull away. When he kissed me, I closed my eyes and kissed him back. I didn't think of Daniel. Or maybe I didn't want to. The guilt came later, like a shadow following behind me, always near, but never overtaking. I told myself, if Daniel really loved me, he would have seen this coming. He would have felt me slipping. I told myself he should have understood that I was lonely. But the truth was simpler and uglier. I never told him I was lonely. I just wanted someone else to fix me. When I went home that night, Daniel was sitting on the couch half asleep, waiting for me with a bowl of reheated pasta because he knew I probably hadn't eaten. He smiled when he saw me. And God, I think that was the first moment I felt something close to grief. Because I had already broken something he didn't even know was in danger. I sat beside him on the couch, still wearing the clothes Adrian had touched me in. Daniel didn't notice the way I hesitated before leaning into him. He just wrapped his arm around me and rested his cheek on the top of my head like he always did. Warm. Familiar. Safe. But instead of sinking into it, I felt trapped. I remember thinking, if he really knew me, he would ask what's wrong. But I hadn't given him a chance. I had already answered the question for him by going somewhere else. Over the next few weeks, the affair became routine. Not constant. Just available. Something I stepped into when I wanted to feel seen. Adrian knew the right things to say, how to make everything sound justified. "You're allowed to be happy," he'd whisper against my throat. "You deserve someone who looks at you the way I do." I wanted to believe him. I clung to it so hard I started rewriting history in my mind. Every time Daniel forgot to send a text, every time he seemed tired after work, every time he didn't read the emotion behind my silence, I stacked those moments as evidence. Proof that I wasn't being loved correctly. Proof that I was right to seek something else. But love isn't a test people have to pass. I didn't realize that then. One night, I came home late again. I could smell that he had cooked, something with garlic and basil, my favorite. The kitchen light was off, meaning he was waiting for me in bed. I stood in the hallway for a long time, staring at the closed bedroom door. My chest felt tight. Heavy. When I finally went in, He stirred and looked at me with that same soft patience. "You okay?" he asked. I froze. Because that was the question I claimed I wanted him to ask. Yet when he asked, I couldn't answer. "Yeah," I said. Too quickly. Too sharp. His eyes softened, but he didn't push. He just nodded and turned back, leaving room for me to crawl beside him. I lay awake while he slept, listening to his breathing, feeling the rise and fall of his chest. And for the first time, I wondered if maybe I was wrong. If maybe Daniel wasn't neglecting me, maybe I was running from the quiet work of loving someone. But the next day, Adrian smiled at me like I was the only person in the room, and I let myself forget that thought. I didn't realize Daniel was noticing everything. He noticed the late nights. He noticed the way I pulled my phone away when a notification came in. He noticed I flinched when he touched my lower back, the same spot Adrian had touched hours earlier. He didn't confront me. Not yet. One evening, while we were brushing our teeth side by side, I caught him watching me in the mirror. His expression wasn't angry, just tired. And something else. Something that twisted inside me. "You've been distant lately," he said quietly. There it was. The moment I had insisted I'd wanted. But my throat closed. I couldn't say the real answer. I cheated, and I am continuing to do it. So I deflected. "I've just been stressed," I said. He nodded slowly. Too slowly. "If something's wrong, I want to fix it with you. But I can't fix something you won't show me." He didn't raise his voice. Didn't accuse. Didn't beg. He just turned, rinsed his mouth, and walked out of the bathroom. And that hurt more than any shouting could have. Because for the first time, I realized he did see me. He always had. I just didn't want to see myself. I didn't stop the affair after that. I told myself I would, but every time I tried to pull away, I reached instead. It was like an addiction to being admired, even when it was costing me the person who truly loved me. The breaking point came on a Sunday afternoon. Daniel asked me to go out with him, just a small date, nothing dramatic. We walked through a park, the air warm and soft. He held my hand. I let him. But my phone buzzed in my pocket. "Adrian." Daniel looked at me. Really looked. "Who keeps texting you?" My heart stuttered. Just one beat, but enough to make my breath feel sharp. I could have lied. I could have said it was work. I could have said it was a friend. I could have said anything. But guilt makes you clumsy. "It's no one," I said. And just like that, I saw something change in his eyes. Not anger. Not jealousy. Just confirmation. A truth he'd been holding inside finally settling into place. We sat on a bench by the pond. People walked past us, laughing, pushing strollers, feeding ducks. The world kept moving while I felt like I was sinking through the wooden slats of that bench. Daniel kept his hand in mine, but it wasn't soft anymore. It was steady. Controlled. Like he was holding on to keep from shaking. "Are you seeing someone else?" he asked. His voice didn't crack. Mine did. "No," I said. Too fast. I wouldn't, He closed his eyes, and I swear the worst part was that he didn't look angry at me. He looked disappointed in himself. Like he had failed. Like he should have prevented this. That's what broke me. "Tell me the truth," he said. His voice was barely above a whisper. I stared at our hands, his fingers wrapped around mine, familiar, warm, everything I once thought I needed. And I realized that the truth wasn't something that started the moment I kissed Adrian. It was something that started long before, when I began expecting Daniel to read my mind instead of using my voice. I didn't answer. Silence was enough. His hand slipped out of mine. He stood up slowly, like his body weighed too much now. The air felt heavier. The ground felt too loud under his footsteps. I didn't try to stop him. I should have. I know I should have. But I sat there frozen, watching the love of my life walk away without looking back. And I still didn't tell the truth. Not that day. Not the next. He moved out 2 weeks later. No screaming. No accusations. He packed his things neatly, folding his clothes with the same gentle precision he always had. He left the houseplants I liked. He left his sweatshirt draped over the chair because he knew it was my favorite to wear. He left his key on the kitchen counter. No goodbye. Just absence. The silence in the apartment afterward was suffocating. I wandered from room to room like a ghost in my own life. Adrian asked me to come over more. He smiled like this was what we wanted, a chance to finally be together without guilt. But being with him no longer felt warm. It felt like standing too close to a fire that was already burning me. He looked at me differently now, not like I was rare, but like I was available. Owned. Convenient. The thrill was gone. What was left was the ugly truth. Daniel had loved me quietly, steadily, consistently. And I had wanted him to perform for my affection. I didn't understand how deep the loss was until 3 months later. I was grocery shopping, the same store Daniel and I always went to. I saw him near the produce section, laughing softly at something the woman next to him said. She was simpler than me. Soft sweater, messy bun, eyes bright. The kind of person who smiles with her whole face. He looked at her the way he used to look at me. Except, no. Not the same. He looked lighter. Unburdened. Free. My chest tightened. I froze behind a display of apples, gripping the handle of the shopping cart so hard my fingers went white. My throat burned. My vision blurred. He didn't see me. Or if he did, he didn't acknowledge it. And the worst part? I couldn't even be angry. She wasn't replacing me. She was filling the space I had vacated. I wanted to scream. To run. To go back in time. To apologize. To beg. To undo. But I didn't move. Because suddenly the truth was so clear it hurt to breathe. Daniel had always loved me. I just didn't know how to love him back. Not then. I left the store without buying anything. I don't even remember walking to my car. I just remember sitting in the driver's seat with my hands shaking so hard I couldn't put the keys in the ignition. I stared straight ahead, letting the tears fall silently. Not the dramatic choking sobs of heartbreak, just quiet, steady grief. The kind you feel in your bones. I drove home eventually, to the apartment that still smelled faintly like him no matter how many times I cleaned. I sat on the floor of the living room, under the soft yellow lamp he always said made the space feel warm. I pulled my knees to my chest and finally allowed the one thought I had been avoiding for months. I did this. Not Adrian. Not circumstance. Not emotional distance or stress or loneliness. Me. I ruined something that was good because I wanted love without needing to participate in it. I wanted to be understood without communicating. I wanted to be chosen without choosing back. And now I had to live with that. After seeing him at the store, I tried to return to life as before, but everything felt like wearing someone else's clothes. Adrian and I fizzled out quietly, almost awkwardly. There was no breakup scene, just a mutual awareness that there was nothing real holding us together anymore. No foundation. No respect. No future. He stopped texting as much. I didn't try to keep him. I went to work, sat at my desk, and when he passed by, he gave a polite nod, the same one he gave everyone else. The affair that once felt intoxicating now felt like a stain that had dried into the fabric of my life, faded but never fully gone. I thought about reaching out to Daniel. God, I thought about it so many times. Not to win him back, I think I knew that was impossible, but to apologize. To tell him I understood now. To tell him I was sorry for expecting him to read emotions I never said out loud. Sorry for making him question his worth. Sorry for taking something pure and twisting it into something ugly. But every time I tried to type the message, I froze. Because an apology wouldn't fix anything. It would only reopen wounds he deserved to have healed. So I stayed silent. Months passed. Seasons changed. I started going to therapy. Not to fix me so I could get him back, but because I needed to understand myself. The sessions were uncomfortable. They peeled me apart. My therapist asked me questions I didn't want to answer. When did you first learn to stay silent instead of expressing needs? Why did you think you deserved to be loved without effort? What did being chosen mean to you? I didn't realize how long I had been waiting for someone to save me from myself. No one can do that. Healing wasn't some dramatic breakthrough, it was slow, painful honesty. I stopped romanticizing what happened. I stopped blaming Daniel for not being what I refused to ask for. I started seeing the affair for what it was: avoidance, fear, ego. The worst realization? Daniel was always willing to meet me halfway. I just never took a step toward him. One late afternoon, almost a year after the breakup, I was sitting in a small cafe near my apartment, the kind with wooden chairs and soft piano music. I was reading, coffee cooling beside me, when I heard the door chime. I didn't have to look to know it was him. Some kinds of familiarity don't fade. He was with her, the same girl from the grocery store. They were laughing softly, shoulders close, the way couples do when the world narrows to just two people. They looked happy. Genuinely happy. My chest tightened, but it didn't collapse this time. It simply ached. Like pressing on a bruise that was still healing. I didn't hide. I didn't run. I just watched quietly, letting the moment settle in my ribs like something tender and heavy. He deserved this. He deserved someone who reached for him, not someone who waited to be chased. He deserved someone who spoke, not someone who expected mind reading. He deserved someone who loved him with the same consistency he once gave me. And she looked like someone who did. It felt cold. Too cold. Maybe it was just me. I kept replaying his voice in my head, calm, exhausted, not angry, just done. He had always been the one to speak softly, even when I was the one causing chaos. Now the silence in my chest felt like something collapsing in slow motion. I opened my phone for probably the 100th time today. The screen lit up with our old photos, laughing in restaurants, walking home at 1 a.m., his arm around me when I cried about my insecurities. The same insecurities that made everything so twisted. The ones I used to justify hurting him. I had written a message. I know this doesn't change anything, but I understand now. I really do. And I'm sorry. I typed it 14 times. I deleted it 14 times. Because I knew sorry wasn't the currency here anymore. Sorry is something you give when you break something that can be fixed. I broke something that wasn't supposed to break.